Yo, welcome to Containing Luxury. Today we're going to be covering why you'd want to use a new versus used shipping container for your shipping container build for your house. And we're going to talk about the 5 major reasons, which are virtually pros versus cons of using either or. Let's get started. Top 5 reasons of why you would want to choose a used container over a new container. The number 1 is if you like the industrial look of a used container with some dings and dents and possibly some rust. You can actually do stuff to keep it watertight and maintain some of that look. So you can see this one's got a real big ding in here, and this is what you risk when getting some of the used containers. They're going to come in all different, shapes. So they could be really dinged up, or they could be absolutely perfect in most places and then have one bad dent like this, or the whole thing could be like this. So we don't really know, and that's a risk you run with using a used container. And in a situation like this dent is bad enough that you would have to alter your interior framing to go around this, because this is actually further in than it would be down there and down there. So if I wanted to put a straight wall down this, I'd have to move the whole wall out to accommodate this big dent here. Or I'd have to get inside and try and bend it back, beating it back, and then make sure that we don't have any cracks or it's still watertight. So that's something we want to watch out for on our containers. The number 2 reason is if you're gonna, right off your bat, if your plan indicates to have a roof on it, then it doesn't really matter. You're gonna be covering it. You're not worried about the watertight structure of the roof. If you're gonna put one over the top, you don't really need a brand new container. Number 3 is virtually right along that same aspect. If you're gonna be putting siding on and you're covering the whole exterior, well, then it doesn't really make sense to pay for a brand new container. Number 4 is if your plan is to make multiple containers and you're gonna be cutting out huge sections of them, you're probably gonna need something as far as siding is concerned. You're also going to need to reinforce stuff, so it doesn't really make sense to cut apart a brand new container. And the 5th and final reason is obviously just cost. If you can save yourself a couple $1,000s on using a used container and you're okay with all the other aspects of it, then save the money by all means. Before I forget, if you like what we're doing here on Containing Luxury and you want us to keep making these videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that like button. And we're trying to bring as much information to you guys as we can. And anything you can do to support us really will help keep us getting you more content and getting you more information. Okay, so the 5 reasons you'd want to choose a new container. So a new container is going to give you, number 1, a guaranteed watertight structure. So some of the used containers, they aren't necessarily 100% watertight. They can have rust. A new container, which is really a one-trip container, is going to be completely watertight, tested. It's going to be solid, good to go. The number 2 reason is if you want to keep any sections where you don't want to have to install siding to guarantee that it's watertight or roofing, you can actually use a new container and not touch the outside at all except for welding in your frames and just making sure any penetrations that you cut, you watertight those. But the structure overall, you could leave it looking like a shipping container if you wanted. Some people might even be okay with that on a used container, but in most cases they're so dented up that they actually don't look that great. If you want to keep that industrial look, you're going to probably want to go with a new container. The number 3 reason is going to be the exterior doors. A new container is going to function a lot smoother. Not to say that a used container doors might be absolutely fine, but a lot of time during the transportation, they've kind of been dented, dinged, hit, and they just kind of rust and the hinges don't work very well. You can repair them, but it's a lot of extra work. So we bought a used container for our first build, and the doors are really tough to function. And we're picking up a new one this time, and it's a big difference. The 4th reason of why you'd want to choose a new container versus an old container is, because Tyler's going to remind me, what is it?
Framing and insulation.
Framing and insulation. we noticed on our first build that if you have some dents and dings on the outside, it can alter your, you don't get necessarily a completely straight line to install all your framing. If it's dented in one section, it's now caused you, if you want to have a completely straight wall, you have to work off the tightest part. So the furthest in dent, unless you're going to sit there and try and beat the dent back out, then you got to make sure that you haven't, damaged the steel, that it's still watertight. So a new container avoids all that stuff because you can just, glue in studs or however your interior framing is going to work. You can just go straight in, everything's nice, crisp, clean, ready for that. New container, not always the case. All right, so the fifth and final reason of why we would want to choose a new container over a used container, and to me, probably the most important, is that we have no manifest as to what was shipped inside this container. So I just like the comfort of knowing that this was only used one time. So I'm gonna go with a brand new one if chosen from myself. If budget's an issue or other reasons that you're cutting the whole thing apart, a used might work for you. But the fifth and final reason for us was just the knowing what's been in it. All right, so that's everything that we could think of the top reasons to choose a new versus a used container. If there's anything that we forgot, or if you have any questions, just make sure to hit the comments. Again, we'll try and get back to you. Otherwise, subscribe to our channel. We'd appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode. But Dad, there's a bug in my nose. It's definitely trespassing. Oh, 34 years old, man. My back is killing me. I just jumped off a good 30-foot building. Okay, maybe it was maybe 4.5 feet, but hey, 30 feet sounds a lot better.